Welcome to another video, everybody. Adam and Rob here, coming with the finals for the Oklahoma Good versus Evil Regional Championship. It's Robby Stewart with Captain Marvel versus Kevin Butcher with the Outriders. So, I think we've seen both the deck lists, so we'll skip that. Any quick thoughts before we get into the games, Rob, about this matchup in particular?
I think this will be a little more interesting than the previous two because I think the other two were like 80-20 matchups. And I think this one's actually like really close. It can go either way.
Yeah. All right. So let's stay here. We'll go with game one and get going here. Always the decision. How many Outriders to go with on turn one?
Usually it's just like a cut and dry. When you know list, it's just there's only one option. He knows there's only +2/+2s in last ones. So realistically, he should just have 6 be going in here.
Yeah. Goes with 9. Last one goes. That card defining the photo format 100%.
Yep. Basically buys Robby a turn and an XP without taking a wound. So having range in this matchup is super valuable.
Yeah, getting any XP,
as you can see here.
Yeah, getting a 7th wound, and that, yeah, like you said, that last one's basically a heal. It's a lot of things. It's such a good card, especially on turn 1 there. You just burn it right off the bat. You don't even worry.
I mean, Robby's gonna level every version of this matchup, but it's just like how many wounds does he level with? And he has a really good start here. Opens the Ant-Man, which I mean, that's about the all value you're gonna get out of it is stunning a guy. It's pretty clean here.
A little bit of a speed bump there for the. For Outriders, never hurts. Like you said, formed right. Little basic stuff.
I mean, Kevin has to respect the +2/+2 here, so probably 2 dogs at least have to go into the Ant-Man.
Yeah. And he's going to need a natural Grandmaster here if he wants to get back in this game a little bit.
Which he did in his other games we watched. So he doesn't have it here, but he has the Yondu, and his opponent's on photo, so getting the pluses here is effectively like negating a potential Yondu if Robby has it. So this is good here. I like the proactive Yondu.
Yeah. Kevin goes with the plus counters quite often with Yondu in this deck, even though it would like limit his team attacks and all that and all that. But I think sometimes the neg might be right here, but I'm fine with the pluses, especially in this situation where they're all clean. So kind of getting them up there a little bit.
This is my first problem with Kevin's formation / attacks here. So he has the Yondu, who's a hero, who would get attacked to the Ant-Man. I mean, I doubt Robby's going to be able to cancel that effectively. Yeah. So I feel like you could back row the 1 health dogs here is my ultimate point. And protect them from a wound number 2.
Yeah, because it's coming from Captain Marvel on the crackback next turn, 100%.
And Kevin's got multiple attacks, so like he doesn't really need those 2 Outriders. It would take like 4 twists for him to miss the wound here, +2/+2s. So I feel like he could have maybe skated. All that does is really divvy up the wounds a little more evenly, though.
I think you're right. If he swaps those 2 right there, if he swaps the Yondu for the Outriders, he still had 2 Outriders ready to go for another attack. And I mean, you can play around so much. You can play around a lot of things, but I think saving those wounds could be big later in the game, definitely, because the Outriders need their numbers to be as dominant as they are.
Yeah. You also have to realize when you're playing this matchup, you're sitting down across from Captain Marvel with her fades and her last ones, that this is going to be a grind. So every wound you could maybe keep an extra Outrider on the board is huge.
Yeah.
He's going to take a wound on Outrider regardless, but the idea is to not get the ones dead early.
Yeah, because he's got 2 with 2, so I doubt we'll see if he back rows him now.
We'll see what happens.
But yeah. But at this point, it's like 2 with 2 is pretty bad on turn 2.
Yeah. I mean, this is like basically where Robby wants to be like open double Ant-Man, get the 2 clean range attacks.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could think of there, especially when they have the counter. You're swinging for 8, so that lets you play around a lot of different things. If you go with the negative counter there, then Yondu can then come up front, team attack with the Outriders into Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel's only got the 3 defense. So like there would have been a line there where you go negative counters. Ant-Man's a 1/1. Captain Marvel was like a 1/3. Anyway, but it would just allow you to have some more attacks too, which would have been a different line you could have taken. But
yeah, I like the proactive Yondu, especially if he knows, because he knows Robby has Yondu in his deck, and you could tell that Robby's like, I mean, he's Yondu away from killing 2 Outriders on turn 3. So pretty good opening for Robby here. Kevin's gonna have to play like super conservative on the pups. There's a Scourge. not really too impactful. There's a Whiplash again. Those low drop villains just not too great besides Grandmaster and Mordu.
But at the same point, it's we'll see what he does with his formation here. But I think for
Yeah, yeah,
these 3
they're
games,
great body blocks.
yeah, in these 3 games, these formations are going to be huge, specifically because Captain Marvel she doesn't fly to what, level 3.
Hmm.
And we'll see what he does. And he's already went to his main phase yet again. He's got all 3 of his supports behind, his 2/2 wounders up front, and they're just he's probably gonna lose 2 Outriders in the next turn.
Yeah, I mean it's like almost like a muscle memory of some Outriders players. Are like, well, they just sit up front and they turn right until they're dead. But you really need to play the attrition game. Like those 2 in the back row, you could even block with Whiplash or Scourge or Yondu. Like none of those guys matter.
Yeah.
It's an easy block. Now they're just gonna die. Does she have flight on level 2?
No, she doesn't get flight till level 3. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, yeah, those are concern. And then you have a chance to possibly keep them safe, maybe get a valuable attack out of them later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll see. It might not matter. We'll see what Robby has. If he has the Yondu, it's going to kill them anyway.
Well, yeah. If we start looking at the back row, he didn't attack with Scourge. He didn't attack with Yondu. Didn't attack with Whiplash. All those guys could have soaked up an attack.
Yeah. See, there's the Yondu.
Yeah, and that's just going to be so. It might not have mattered in a way, but if he would have hit him.
Well, but it did in the second turn where he decided to take wound number 2, where like they actually wouldn't be dead right now if he would have backrowed them turn 2.
Yeah, he would still would have had the Ant-Man, so one of them would have been dead, but you'd still be up an entire Outrider right now. It's
Yeah,
a 5 over
enough.
4, and now I mean he's gonna wound 2 more, and it's going downhill.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't even have to worry about that back row of his at the moment.
Correct. So like Kevin just didn't have the Grandmaster there. A little brutal. It's letting Robby just come into his Outriders pretty free because they're not getting any value out of them. So we'll see what happens here. He's got the one good thing about this turn for Kevin is that the Captain Marvel now can't get like last ones because he adds another support in play.
Yeah.
So if he attacks correctly, he's going to get the wound here.
Let's put them in a little bit worse position. The one good thing here is see how Kevin decides to attack Captain Marvel, not letting him get into solo attacks. That was the key in the first round of top 8 with what was it? Sean kind of solo attacking into Captain Marvel and leveling her up. So with the Outriders, you're obviously probably going to be doing team attacks just to get this done because I think she's a 5/6 now. So
I think so.
Let's see how Kevin plays it. I can't remember exactly. And yet again, it's just I think this is going to be something we're going to be harping on throughout the. He just played his resource, so he hasn't went to a recruiter formation yet. But I think this is going to be something we'll harp on a little bit throughout this matchup. Is his supporting characters are going to stay in their back row, wait a little bit too often, or maybe way too often at some points when they could have went up front, and this whole matchup could have been slightly different there.
See now the Killmonger on Captain Marvel's huge here. She loses range. That gives Kevin the opportunity to play like +3/+3s and ferociously stun her when she tries to attack next turn. So you really got to protect this Killmonger. This Yondu has to get into the front row.
Yeah.
To flight block potential flight plays.
Also,
I'd love to see everything go up front but Killmonger.
Yeah. You could leave the Scourge back and do like a team attack with Scourge and Killmonger into the rangeless Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's a freebie.
Yeah, it'd be it's almost a free stun. Even his pumps or whatever can't get past that because it would have been like 7. So I guess you'd have to play the +2/+2 to get out of it. But at that point, you're happy because there's no crackback. And then you got wide open swings with the Outriders at that point.
Well, you could throw Whiplash in too, right? And that'll put you at 8. So like you could just front row the Yondu here, and you could even back row the 2 dogs, which is what I think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Like you have to treat every wound as if it's their last, even though it's not, because it just allows you to keep the majority of them alive.
And see, this time if he would have did the range attack from the back row, this attack wouldn't have got bounced like this. There would have been. Now he's going to get a strike back. He would have. He's got the plus, but still, it would have been.
But I think he could have not needed the plus.
Yeah.
But I guess you could say maybe he was baiting it, but that's not a card that he's concerned with. I feel like he gave Robby value in that card that he really shouldn't have ever got. Because I feel like that +2/+2 can be played around basically the whole game. It's so easy to read. Yeah. All right, so he uses the pup here, and he went in for a single. That could have been a pump away from being a disaster too.
It's these range characters in his back row, supporting characters that just aren't. They're not doing anything. I mean, Yondu's came into play, Whiplash has come into play, and they're just kind of sitting back there. If you're Robby, you're just feeling like you're getting tons of value here, if they're not actually. And then that's just.
I mean, it might not even have mattered. This draw's pretty disgusting for Robby here.
Yeah, double Ant-Man, double Yondu.
I don't even know if Kevin could have won with perfect formations and attacks because he never had the Grandmaster. So these dogs' wounds were almost inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
I think this would kill Scourge, Whiplash.
Whiplash should just be
Yondu
a
goes to
one wound. Whiplash has 2 wounds. He should still be in play.
yeah.
Scourge is
He
definitely
points that out. Shout out
dead.
to Robby for not letting his opponent kill stuff early.
Yeah, for playing fair, gotta love it. There's yeah, well, there's
He plays fair decks and plays fair.
there we go. But that
I
just,
mean, he's just cleaning up house here, and this is really the disaster that Killmonger is not going to stick. So what's her stats now? She's a 5/6, right?
yeah.
Okay, so CC. All right, he needs a +2/+2. Okay, he has one. I was about to say if he didn't have one after having to waste the one last turn, that would have been just a disaster. So Robbie's going to eat the crackback, take 4. I mean, he's not in a terrible spot if Robbie can just stop drawing Yondu's. Kevin's got a chance.
Yet again, we can talk about getting that Yondu up front.
Yeah,
Eating up
that
that
was
wound.
like okay. So yeah, if it was there, what happens now? That Captain Marvel just has to attack Yondu and basically like lose their turn.
Yeah, or you do Yondu into Yondu at that point. Then you can play the +2/+2 trade with that, or hold it back for the Captain Marvel attack. There's some different stuff you could do there that would just make it a little bit more complicated for Robbie instead of making it a little bit more straightforward.
Because I mean, Kevin's whole game plan is going to be making sure a Killmonger or a Mordu sticks, because he's not going to win against Captain Marvel's fades, and so he's got to go for that. Like we'll see. He got it to stick this turn. He has a chance to stabilize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really key. Like you said, getting a late Mordo or Killmonger to hit the board and keep him down in order to stop all those bounce effects that Robbie has coming at you.
Yeah.
But
if I'm Kevin, my hand, if I see any Mordu, I'm holding it till she's level 3. I have no reason to play it beforehand.
Yeah, no superpowers, and you're just kind of putting it out there. The same thing with Killmonger. It's like you could hold that. See, there we go. And we're talking about we're just discussing those lines. It's like you might. I think playing the Killmonger earlier to turn off her range is pretty key. Like we talked about the line with the team attack. With
Yeah, there's value there.
But I think you can definitely slow roll that Mordo way back because Robbie will build up those blues and be playing to play with those bounces and his formation and the way he's setting up, and then you drop that Mordo. Can really
see like now the 2 dogs with 2 wounds in the front row, he didn't use them at all. They 100% needed to be back rowed, so he's just giving them away. They're definitely both probably dead this turn. The Mordoom, I don't know what else he had in his hand, so it's hard to crucify that play. Because if that was his only recruit, you could make an argument for it. But I do think holding that is really important. A third Yondu, utterly just like brutal.
Yeah, there's just not much you can do about a draw like that if you're playing. You don't get the Grandmaster, he goes double Ant-Man, triple Yondu.
That's pretty brutal, especially because like there's no Heimdall in this format for the dog player, which he had access to the last time they were seen in competitive play. So if you don't draw the Grandmaster, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think he might be able to get an extra. I don't even think he could have got an extra wound here. Like Ret 5, he's pretty much wounded him every turn except for the turn that he last wound on the draw on his turn 0. So I don't know if he could have really accumulated much more at this point anyway, despite everything happening.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not like trying to roast Kevin's, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. He's ultimately doing what the dog deck's supposed to do, which is wound you every turn, barring getting his turn ended. So it's just some of the intricate formations, and they could have maybe saved a wound or 2 on the pups. But I think 3 Yondus kind of made it irrelevant.
Yeah, he might have more dogs out right now with 2 wounds on them, but really kind of in the same position and kind of dead to the same cards at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to play a Teak Resonance Place to try to get some cards.
This is a great trade.
That card is really underrated. That's a great card. There's so little raw draw in the game that anytime you can get some and you can fit it in the deck well, whew. All right, so at this point you got to hide these pups, man. You got to get those pups back. You got to get them hidden, and you got to try to get another wound, put a 5th on her. See, now you got a 5/8 you can throw up front here. You could team attack with Whiplash. That's going to get a wound on them, but you got to get those dogs back because they're just sitting ducks, right?
They're doing nothing, just like they've been the last few turns. They'd be getting pelted. Yeah, I mean there should be a couple more in play, but they would all be at 2 wins regardless. So if he back rows them, like the Red Skull's a nice wall until Captain Marvel gets flight, but I'm pretty sure she's about to, and Robbie knows it. You can tell by his body language.
Yeah.
Like he's really comfortable. His hand has a last one. He's got his 7 drop. His high end is in his hand. I mean, this is where he wants to be. His early game was so fire for the dog matchup. It's just he's obviously hard mulliganing for Yondu and Ant-Man. Yeah. He drew 5 of the 8, so very fortunate draw.
Yeah, seeing that Bruce Banner and that last one in there, and then coming with the solo attack right here is just kind of a misunderstanding of not really paying attention to the card because you really just kind of suicided Red Skull Land at that point.
Yeah, I mean this is a little brutal. I guess he wasn't
Yeah,
keeping track of her XP gain.
and that's
So he goes to a 6-9, which I don't think strikes back, but he doesn't wound her,
no.
um, which is pretty much a disaster.
Yeah. So that's game. Robbie's gonna
That's a little
untap,
bit of
drop
a
a
whiff,
breach banner, and just clean this stuff up. I think.
a little
So
bit of a punt, but I don't even know if play perfectly you beat 3 Yondus, so I'm not gonna roast him too bad.
yeah, let's see here. Watch this. He's just gonna drop. Oh no, he's gonna drop an Anya. Oh, and that works too. So
Yep.
that'll also work, and that's just gonna play around any pump. There, and yet again, he could have dropped the 7 drop, which might have been a little bit shinier, right? When you're looking at your hand
Yeah.
and you're looking at the
hmm
plays, you're like, I want to play the big
Well, I think
guy.
he was on 6 that turn.
Oh, he's on
Yeah.
6, yeah. But the
Yeah. I
playing the
think he was
Anya
on 6.
just absolutely shuts the door with the dogs
Yeah.
up
Well,
front
does
like that
Yanya says they're considered to have their base stats, right? In combat or just all the time?
for the entire for the
Uh,
until end of turn.
okay,
Yeah.
so like her plus Yondu stuns them even with the Grandmaster counter. So he's got some good avenues for handling the dog matchup.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So let's go to game 2 here because
Right? And, no, because the negatives still cancel out. That's wrong.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, so
he's got the Anya does, but it's a good solution regardless to the Grandmaster.
yeah, because the way the counters work, because when I was looking at Anya in the photo format when the dogs were in Vegas when they didn't have any dogs, but the Valkyrie mirror became a huge deal there, and counters were very much a part of that matchup. And I was looking at Anya, and if you play her, yeah, the counters don't give the plus, but you can't put the negative counters until there's plus counters are all gone, and blah 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 blah. So
Yeah.
it would have been an interesting play in that format too, for sure.
Not like I don't think he could have done too much. I think that Robbie's kit might actually have like a favorable matchup. Maybe. But there's a couple things with Kevin, but this isn't like anything in his 60 he can control that in our version were a little different. We ended up playing a lot of flight blockers on the mid to top end. We like the Singleton Ultrons, the guys with multiple health and flight,
Yeah,
because you at some point just stop using the dogs altogether.
yeah, late
They just
game.
become your lifeline.
Yeah, you either run the person over, like when you win games with Outriders, you either run them over and the amount of wounds they have turns, right?
Yep.
Or you get into these kind of weird attrition battles where you're hiding dogs late and trying to win with a 5, 6, or some combos of team attacks there to get that last wound or two that you kind of missed due to a last one or a heal.
Right. But because you're in good versus evil, you don't have a lot of avenues for the early game. Because the bad guy low drops are kind of trash. So there's no reason not to just play a top end of flight blockers and quality drops. I mean, he's playing a top end. It's just I don't know if there's enough flight there. Like in this matchup, it's just like she's going to get to them.
hmm It was interesting that he decided to go with his deck build specifically all Marvel villains as opposed to bringing in any X Files cards. Because you had Monsters of the Week, you had some Syndicate, and they have some good cards in the bottom half that can be very aggressive. But I don't know because
Yeah.
his deck ended up being loyal villains. And I thought when I first saw the build, I was looking for the there's that one loyal twist in photo. What is it called? Proprietary technology. Because it's pretty bad most of the time. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's not a great card.
But man, is it really good against Ego? It blows Ego out late
Mhm.
if you're in a matchup with Ego late in the game. And if I went back and looked at everything, it'd be pretty good against Silver Surfer. That's for sure.
Yeah, I
There's
mean
a
that's
lot
the
of
thing
info.
about Kevin's last game. Like if he could just get to turn 7
Yes.
to get ego or any flight blocker, I mean he could just be hiding his guys and be actually safe. But I mean there's a little bit of stealth in Robbie's deck, but there's not too many ways to get back there without Yondu's, and he already played 3. But so we go in this game. He opens Ant-Man, pretty nice opening here. There's the Grandmaster. This should be a different looking kind of game.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so if I'm Kevin here, I'm going max. Depending on his twist hand, I'm probably just sending 2 dogs into this Ant-Man, but it's specifically the 2 dogs without wounds.
Yes.
Because I want the counters on the ones with wounds. See, yes, I don't think I would do that here.
It's interesting because if you notice him, like we talked about muscle memory earlier, he attacks right to left normally with his characters. If you notice, Kevin, little things that you pick up on now that I've watched this stream so many times at this point, but little things you pick up on. If you watch him through the other matches, it's the same way. He would attack from like right to left, and it's almost like it's just kind of like you said, muscle memory of the way he's doing it, and not really stopping, thinking about the board state, and making your formation and then attack decisions that way. Rushing through any part of your turn is always a bad idea, and I'm not saying that he is or isn't or whatever, but anytime you're not like thinking to yourself, okay, is this the formation I want? Because it's like Grandmaster always goes in the back, my dogs are up front, and then I start attacking. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Like, look what happened there. So because the two ones with wounds didn't have counters, the Captain Marvel was able to attack it with 2 attack, get the second wound on the dog. If he attacked in the other way, he would have 3 dogs with 1 wound. Um, you see what I'm saying? Like, so he's
Yeah.
opening up the dog to dying sooner, which is what happened in game 1. But we'll see how it makes out here.
Yeah, and little things like that, that could buy you an extra turn with an extra outrider in play to hit that attack, get that attack up to where it needs to be in order to get that stun to keep the pressure on. All right. Yet again,
Yeah,
playing that Mordo, maybe this is all he has. If I'm playing that Mordo as a curve, because he's got a good body. Let's be
just
honest.
putting it up front.
Five
Yeah.
four for 3 is a good body, but you end up
Hmm.
defending him so much because his power is so uh, impactful. So, but yeah, but getting him up front here is not the worst thing ever because he can just eat that. What's her face? Gosh, I can.
I mean, I don't hate it. It does prevent Robbie from going like high roll turn 2 Tony Stark into the 4-drop, like he did that against the Venom player, Sean.
Yeah,
So I mean, like the Mortar's okay here early. I do prefer holding it, but
yeah.
I mean, there's a line of play. Maybe he has another one in his hand. So
Hmm.
so he doesn't back row the dog here again, just kind of giving it away, a little,
Yeah,
and then this turn gets ended.
and then
It's
another
frustrating.
yeah, last one. So I do want to bring that up to about last game. Like we talked about some of the formation, but I mean I don't know. Like we said, if we went back and looked at hands and everything, if there's a way for Kevin to really pull that game out with the draw that Robbie had, and this is another one where it kind of looks the same way for a while here, but I think eventually Kevin kind of turns this one around. Now losing that dog at the time he did seems really rough. Like you said, if this was the case, then he'd have a lot of guys with 1 wound at this point, and he'd still have six dogs in play, and I don't think any of them would have 2.
Hmm. I mean, this is a grind matchup. Like when you sit down and you decide, like, hey, am I the aggressor? Am I like what's my avenue of play here? She's going to get to her end game, so you really have to play like you have 10 turns of this dog matchup going on.
Yeah, and I think if you're smart with your attacks and the way you form, you can put the pressure to get those wounds on, and if he draws the last one, he draws it. And there's not much you can do about that. There's
Yeah.
not. I guess you could run some Combat Master at some point, but the only place you got Combat Master in the curve is at 4.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, it's just I think this matchup is just like Robbie's highlighting here that his kit isn't that terrible at dealing with the outright matchup. When you have range like he does, you can really fight. Um, his deck look like it's poised to handle this matchup. It's not terrible.
I think we saw that in Midwinter when a couple people came with Odin and really played heavy ranged decks,
Hmm.
and we're just trying to draw the game out and just kind of basically prey on people forming kind of how do I want to phrase it? I don't want to say it's sloppy or lazy, but people forming sort of like this in a habitual way of just keeping everybody up front and just preying on that by like picking them apart instead of like you were saying, shuffling the wounded riders in the back to kind of protect them more early, right? Even at costing yourself a little bit of potential pressure against your
Yeah.
opponent.
All right, so 4 here. I'd like to see a Killmonger because stripping her range is pretty great. We'll see what he does here. He set every resource, so this hand is, I don't know, not ideal, I'd say.
Yeah, that's just what it's
Not
gonna
that
do.
Outriders need location. So Grandmaster's great here.
And you just got to remember, level 2, no. He's just going all in, which is fine. Which is fine in a way. You'd like to leave something back for that to clear that Yondu too to get an
Yeah.
entire board clear here. But I think getting the
Yep.
counters on him is important. But yet again, he could have that Mordo up front, and he could go and smack that Yondu. Even the +2/+2 wouldn't save him at this
Yeah,
point.
we would
It just
cancel because it's a Yondu's a villain.
Yondu
But
is a villain. Oh, it would be a cancel. But you
but
know what? You're willing to. I think I'm willing to eat that at that
well,
point.
that's a great cancel. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm with you. That actually that Yondu. See, normally I'm saying ignore an SC who has no value on the board, but that guy is able to range attack a dog. So yeah, you absolutely needed to put the Mordo up front there. Unless he doesn't have another one, he's playing conservative with the Mordo, and he's just worried to losing it.
He
So
did
there's
burn a
some other
power.
avenues.
He did burn a power up to 1 earlier there.
Right.
Now,
Yeah, I
like
think there was definitely an avenue where he puts her up front attacks.
Now you got 3 team. You got 3 ranged attackers. It's going to be 3 more wounds. They all just plow through those counters. Kevin's going to have to burn plot twists to keep these guys face up. So it's going to be this is going to be a really rough one on his hand. Meanwhile, Robbie's really been pretty efficient with cards when you look at what's in his yard versus what he has down. And I
Yeah, he's
guess
just curving out, doing what his deck does. He did draw again, Ant-Man Yondu, so it's keeping him in the game.
yeah. And then the Iron Man here is good. And there you go, losing another Outrider, and then get another one with 2. Wonder if he tries to bounce it. I think Kevin's holding a couple of twists here, and this would be one where he could run the cancel, and I think it's worth it. 100% if he can friend from work right here. I think he's got one.
See, like right now, he's thinking about using a twist or he's about to lose his Grandmaster to the Yondu. Even worse. I mean,
Ooh.
that Yondu almost really shouldn't even be there. So
Yeah.
that's a twist that was unnecessarily needed to play if he attacked last turn, in theory.
Yeah, in theory, and also those things add up, right? Those cards that you have in your hand add up over the game, and here's Robby yet again making some good attacks. So he prioritized his things in at his attacks as in, okay, let's clear a rider because that's how you win the matchup. And then after he cleared the rider, he could have got 3 more wounds on, but what did he do? He spent 2 attacks trying to get that Grandmaster off the board because it was more important than a wound right now.
Yeah,
so
this was something that didn't happen in that matchup with Scott, where Scott was prioritizing the wounds on the dogs and letting their Grandmaster get them bigger.
Yeah, great point.
I mean,
great point.
Yeah.
So let's see what he's got here. And yet again, I that Mordo has not stopped anything from happening, and it's been sitting in the back row. Like you said, I'm not trying to harp on it too much, but I just want to point that out that if he's not going to be doing what he normally does when you protect him, then get him up there and have some action with him. Because I mean, 5-4 for 3 is an aggressive stat line.
Yeah. So it looks bad. Like, oh, this has been going pretty Robby's way. He had to cancel. He had the Yondu and the Ant-Man. But he's not in a bad spot. 3 dogs full health, 1 with 1 health, 2 dead. That's okay. This is winnable.
Plus 3 counters. 3 counters on 3 of them. So we got a couple of 6-4s.
He's just got to clean this up. Like, these 1 health guys on Robby's side, they need to be dead in 1 turn. They can't be sticking around applying multiple wounds.
And another Grandmaster also, which is also very rough for Robby at this point. Now,
See,
right there, he was going to move the Mordo up. I was going to, and then he didn't quite do it. But still, bringing all the counters on him. What do you think about that? Just going all in on the attack there, all in on the pump, and just ignoring those two supporting characters.
I think I'm a little less of a greedy person. I would take about 2 into the Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. Two dogs get the 4 counters. It's all good. The 1 with 1 health would definitely be one I'd be wanting to get the counters on. But I want to clean up these 1 health guys. Like right now, this Iron Man's a 5, and he can clean range attack one of these dogs. Mm-hmm. The Yondu's going to be able to fly back and kill the Grandmaster. Like, you're just conceding these 2 attacks if you... All right, so you see he's got the Scully.
Always rough.
Oh, I assume he heals here.
Yeah, I think he's got an X-Files down, so he might as well. And that's just really...
Well, he's got to clear the Mordu first, but yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so Mordu's doing some work that we saw. Maybe he was holding him out for that kind of thing, like the Scully play here. Also, he has had the yellow, but he's not been able to use the Iron Man because of the Mordo. So, maybe Kevin was on to something a little bit more than what we were talking about. But I see what you're saying, and that's a strategy that I think that people miss out on and that people need to think about. And it's a simple thing. Try to... get the counters on the wounded Outriders in the attacks whenever possible and make them harder to stun.
That's the one thing about Photo is they don't have a lot of multi-health low drops. Like, it's so easy for them to lose board. That's one of the issues with them in Versus Illustrated. So when you're the dog player, I mean, I'm prioritizing the board state because I know this is a longer game. If it was a different matchup, maybe you do ignore the supports.
Mm-hmm. And especially if you know that Robby's list and he doesn't have cancel. If Robby was playing a list that didn't have cancels and healing, then I think that you can just kind of like rush him down, try to get him down in 6 or 7 turns. But knowing that he's got healing, he's got cancels, he's got bounces, you need to think about keeping the board clear so you can keep dominating and keep those turns going on and on. Or else it's just going to snowball against you.
Yeah, so Kevin plays the +2/+2, and it kind of protects him from the... Like, he's using twist to make up for his formations is what I feel like. And it
the amazing thing about this game is the whole time I'm feeling like Robby has the advantage, Robby has the advantage, and Kevin ends up winning this game.
Yeah, we're going to see how this happens because, like, right now this board is looking pretty glim.
No, I remember
he doesn't clear the Mordu, so the heal's not applicable. That's good. Good for Kevin on sticking that guy.
Yeah, I think double Grandmaster has a little bit to do with it, but
they're huge.
And then he's had Mordo, double Grandmaster. We'll see what else he draws here. The thing about Kevin's deck, though, unlike a lot of Outrider lists that I've seen over the last couple months when Photo was in, is that he does have some good late game. When he starts playing Egos, he has a couple Thanos in there. So
yeah, you don't concede the grind.
He can definitely trade punches when it gets to late game. And I think that's what happens in this matchup, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I watched it. But he doesn't seem to have a lot of heat that he's drawing right now. He has rode absolutely everything that he has drawn. I'd love to see what was in that row. And then I
don't know if he kept her mulligan, but I mean his hand had a lot of Grandmasters, so maybe that's why he kept it.
Yeah,
if he did.
You 100% cannot ship any hand that has Grandmaster with his deck.
Not in this matchup.
No.
Yeah, not in this matchup. Like this, Robby's board's so flimsy, and it could be even lower if Kevin was a little more aggressive killing the sports. But I think he cleans it up here.
100% has the opportunity to. Definitely need to protect the Mordo. I like that he put the Leviathan up front as that flight blocker we were talking about. I think even if you can clean the board and not attack it, see, that's an XP right there, and you gotta be on. See, I think that's
Well,
just
he's got five counters, right? Yeah, it
yeah.
still stuns.
It still stuns, but still the level. I'm a little bit, I would be a little bit reluctant to give him the 7th health and the level
Well, like
like that.
that's gonna happen either way, like right. And he gets the Mordu, so like that's this perfect time to attack because she
I
can't
guess
cancel.
so. I guess so.
So
Yeah.
like now, like if this could have been like this board state the whole time, where Robbie has no supports, and if you can just hammer into Captain Marvel turn, you're good. But he kind of left those Yondus and Iron Man's up a little longer than necessary. But it looks like he's stabilized really well here.
Yeah, that was a nice big board wipe, just what he needed. I still think that maybe if you team attack into that Captain Marvel and not give her flight on this turn, it could be big because right now you could go like Groot and Shatari, and then Captain Marvel could fly over get the Mordo. Although at this point Robbie's going to start thinking about having to wound the Outrider some.
So he's taking the for sure stunned as a free heal. That's a smart play. And then he's gonna have to kill the Shatari. So he goes for the flight block instead of the because the dogs I think are all out of range except one. One's a 6/6.
Yeah, one's a 6/4, so he could swing at that one, but
6/4. Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't prioritize the counters there. We'll see if this comes up. What
yeah,
maybe I'm assuming he's setting up for the turn 7 play Bruce to clear the Mordu so he can start using his cancel.
I think so maybe, but at the same point, I think I'd rather have a face down Groot or a wounded Outrider without counters, as opposed to a one wound on the Shatari right there. So that might be a little bit of a misstep for Robbie. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like
I think
it's
I
not
agree
like
with you
a
because the Shatari's got
wild.
2 health.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think you make that attack next turn when you need to fly over
yeah,
because you're not clearing it anyway, and those counters are just a magnificent problem.
yeah.
He's only winning by killing the dogs, so I feel like it's inevitable the counters have to go away.
And this is about the time, turn 6, turn 7, when he's really got to start focusing on wounding them down because as knowing Kevin's list and as Kevin starts drawing into, he hasn't seen much of it yet, drawing into like the Red Skulls, the Egos, and Thanos is in his deck that you assume that he'll inevitably get.
Yeah.
It gives him
I mean,
some
Red
pretty
Skull
big
would be huge here because I see like 2 wilds in Robbie's row,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that'd be really strong.
Yeah, he never got to get that Scully off, which was going to be an issue right here. But also, I
There's
just
Ego.
yeah, that's rough.
That's
Yet
a great. I
again,
mean, he's just such a beater card, man.
yeah, I think at this point you pull back that we were talking about earlier. You pull back that one wounded Outrider and try to
Yep.
try some of the stuff. And just right here, I almost would just go in with the Ego. So much
Yeah,
safer.
it's too free. I would pull the Outrider back for sure. And there's a line where you maybe pull back the one with the small amount of counters because he's easier to stun.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you didn't attack with him. You have 3 Outriders that didn't attack right there, and that way
right.
you had a couple of you had a couple of different ways you could go into Groot in case he did uh,
hmm
bounce it in some way or have a pump or double pump or something like that. So as he
So Robbie's got the Molder here, but if he plays the Molder, I mean, he can't. The problem is he can't get to this board. It's been sticking for steps about 4 turns now.
yeah, a little bit of a
Um,
misstep there, showing the Molder a little bit early. Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's definitely the Bruce
so
here.
like we thought, he was going into Bruce, so he tried to kill the Flight Blocker last turn, but Kevin had the follow
Yeah,
Flight Blocker. So now he's got to attrition the Flight Blockers if he wants to get his cancel. And if I'm Robbie, that's my #1 goal because I'm not winning this game if I can't get cancels off.
100%. You can't. You're just not gonna be able to do it the way. Not gonna
But
be.
you also have to get these counters off these pups. So
Oh,
we'll see what he does here.
this is where it kind of gets away with him. This Mordo sticking and him just not being able to get through it. Then putting that Ego down is big.
Mhm.
Like and that I will give credit to Kevin for the deck design in that regard because a lot of people just kind of end their curve at 5 or 6 with Outriders. Maybe they drop a couple of 7 drops in there, but you don't see a curve going as high as this one does. Normally, when I was looking at some of these Outrider lists, when you're playing with Mayor in the format, it's a little bit different because you almost need some things like Mulder or a Thanos or something like that. But
You can see Robbie gets +2/+2 into this. He's down 1. He tries to use Bruce, but obviously his opponent points out his Mordu, so he can't. So that's going to be a brick. It looks like.
yeah, I think that's what Robbie wanted to drop the Mulder to begin with, is to go ahead and rip something out, like rip Thanos' out. Being on the play in this matchup seems like it'd be really huge too. You drop the Mulder, you rip the Egos, and that's really going to hurt Kevin's ability to stabilize and come back. Because honestly, on the back of some kind of later game flyers, he's stabilized a little bit, been able to protect the Mordo with plot twists, and that's really kind of hurt Robbie's strategy going forward there.
Yep.
Even dodging 2 wounds with Groot, you kind of feel like the game is tilted, in Robbie's favor at this point, and that Kevin's just going to kind of have to play out a couple turns to win. If he can just hold on to this Mordo for a couple more turns, it would be pretty much a GG.
100%. I don't remember. I think Kevin was playing Hela. If he has a Hela here, that'll clean his Bruce up nicely. Otherwise, he's going to have to deal with it next turn. But he's got the Scourge, kind of irrelevant. The Yondu, kind of irrelevant. I guess it's fine. It's a flight blocker. I would be throwing that guy up front 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I think yet again, it's one of those ones where he kind of does it. I think you definitely pump the counters because every counter is a bonus here.
Yeah, I'm good with the pluses here. It's fine. It pumps the Mordu, makes it a little harder to kill.
Yeah, but I think you definitely get Yondu up front. You pull that Wounded Rider back, and then you just try to get Bruce down. I think he's running a 2-2 split between Shatari Leviathans and 2-2 split Shatari Leviathans and Hellas. So yeah, he has a Hela here, and putting a wound on somebody like a Bruce Banner or something like that is pretty big. Same thing, great counter to the Groots in case Robbie would have drawn one of those. Yeah, great card.
Very, very good. So he's on 8 here. We know he's got the Molder, not too impactful. It's a range attacker for about a turn.
Unless he can get that. Robbie, this is one of those times when I wonder if you went back and you talked to Robbie about the build when he was like, you know what, maybe Goose wouldn't have been such a bad idea.
Yeah, you can see he's basically like this whole game. I don't know if goosing the Mordu is a solution because it's going to get clear, and then Kevin would have got it back. But there's some top end that I like Goose as an answer for too, because your access to the top end of Hero's side of Photo is pretty glim. That's why he's playing Molders, because it's just not as good as the villain side.
Yeah. But I mean, with the combination,
stealth goes back.
Yeah, Goose and Molder would have been pretty good for disruption here. Goosing this Ego would have been pretty big, but anyway, this Anya coming down. This is what you got her for. This is what you're running her for. Is a scenario like this where you can just literally murder some counters off people.
And that could have been a line of Robbie's where that's why he attacked the Shatari, but I still think that the Shatari was a non-factor this game, essentially.
Yeah.
So, now he's going to clean up the counters, but he took for a couple turns. They were in play. And I mean, there was no point where Kevin was short of firepower to stun Robbie's whole board, so maybe it didn't matter.
But yet again, you got to put it's one of those things where you're putting yourself in position, the best position possible, And some of these lines, like we're going to talk about, it's like, it was okay. Like we were talking about with Robbie making a little bit of a misstep there, maybe earlier, in that play going after the Shatari. But it's not a play that's going to lose you the game per se. But it'll be part of the equation when you add up a lot of these different plays that cost you a card here and there that can end up like losing you a game.
Yeah. I mean, there's just like some small nuances with the formations that aren't punishes either. Like it's sometimes like Kevin that turn didn't put the Yondu up front, but it also didn't matter. He didn't have enough weight to get through the Ego, and he opted just to take the wound. So now Robbie's taking the approach of I have to turn this corner. I got to kill these dogs. So like as Kevin, he's got to realize that, and this is where he's got to protect them.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's interesting. We keep talking about formation, and we talk about that's a pretty big play right there.
That's huge.
That Killmonger and then another a Yondu there, but that Killmonger at this point in the game might slam the door a little.
That was necessary, yeah. I mean, she was going to fade this turn with her ability, and he might have not had enough gas to get through because all the counters are gone. But now, I mean, it's looking good. He's also got the Ego, which is a nice, perfectly clean swing.
Yeah, and if you can clear out that front part of the board, you have 2 counters on. You got a team attack with Killmonger and Scourge that'll stun the Captain Marvel for free yet again, and see if he tries to go with that strategy again or how he does it here. But yet again, it's a combat game at its heart. Yeah, we're gonna keep saying that, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just like saying every time I'm mentioning his formation, he could definitely be blocking. But all right, so he's got some clean one-of swings here. This is, I would be playing her on the last one by going into her first. Looks like he is. You definitely don't want to walk into getting him another turn.
There you go. Good.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. Clean there. Ego's just stomps down that guy.
Yeah.
You also could like front row the Yondu. You could use it as it's a hero at this point, so it's almost pointless.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
There's
no
values
there.
You might as well just use it as a speed bump, like you were saying. It's just kind of sitting back there, not doing anything.
Especially if you're going to clear his board, because it's actually something he would have to recruit and waste an attack on to get to his back row. My thought here is protect Killmonger at all costs.
Yeah, but you can still attack with him into the Captain Marvel right there because he has range. He's taking it from her. And I hate to see him just sit back there at 6'6" range, not doing anything when he has a 2-wound Outrider with a counter up there, having to go in hot, set themselves up for a blowout, you know? And like you said, that Yondu's not doing anything in the back, so you might as well put it up front and eat an attack, some sort of an attack, if they have to go back and get that Killmonger. Because that Killmonger is your win con at this point. But there's so much, like we keep talking about formation. We keep talking about formation and the way you do your attacks. And that really is such a key part of the strategy of this game. Your deck building and then what cards you choose to play on which turns, right? Those are strategic decisions, 100%, what you row. But most of the time you just kind of play your curve out. But so much of the game's deeper strategy is in formation and then the way you attack.
100%.
Yeah, so you just got to take your time with it, especially in these untimed rounds and cut after cut. Man, take a second in your formation step and look at what you have and think it through. You know?
Also, this is one reason, like we brought up, like tilting. We've talked about in the past, where like there's a lot of micro decisions, and you're not the ones you don't catch. So when you do catch yourself in one, it's a long game with a lot of micro decisions. It's to tilt off, you're just kind of throwing. So these guys are keeping a level head. They look like they're going in. So kudos to them.
Let's see, what did he call here? I can't remember.
Looks like he's naming Red Skull.
Maybe. I think that was what was in.
Right? Because I saw him throw one.
Yeah, he named Red Skull. That's a good name there.
Oh, no, maybe it's Killmonger. Because he's getting his...
Killmonger.
Yeah, it's Killmonger.
Okay, that's
maybe
good.
the Red Skull's in play then. Okay.
I wonder if he rode one. No, he... only two. I wonder if he rode one. No, the Red Skull wasn't in play. I think the Red Skull was in his hand, maybe.
It's weird. Okay. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's a mistakenly over there. Okay, yeah, it's his hand. Okay. Oh, it's his only card in hand. Okay.
Yeah, only card in hand.
Okay. That's a good one of having your hand.
Well, that's
so
good.
the Killmonger dies here. That's good for Robby. He has a chance to not die now.
Yeah, he's
got to clean these dogs up to a manageable size, which is what he's doing.
Yeah, has that hand knowledge, so he can just swing away, make some quick decisions, not have to tank it too much. And
I will say, with all the Grandmaster counters that Kevin got this game, Robbie's keeping it close.
Yeah, you have to, man. You have to like continually try to keep those things off. In this matchup, when I was doing some Outrider testing against Outrider and everything, that was even if you're going to take some wounds yourself and it feels like you might be being too aggressive on occasion, you got to keep those wounds off. You got to keep those counters off. Otherwise, you just can't. They snowball on you, and you just can't. Because he rips another Grandmaster here, or a Grandmaster Yondu, or something like that. They can get really scary. Let's see what he does with the formation in this time, because he's got a 2-wounder, 1-wounder. He's got the ego in play that can kind of protect them. He's got some range guys in the back row. Finally draws a location. For crying out loud.
Turn 9 or something.
Yeah, a little subtle play here. Now, I don't know what the other card in his hand is, but not giving Robby any hand information by playing the Red Skull, so Robby assumes that he doesn't know what card he has in his hand, which is always a good idea if they do have hand knowledge.
All right, so he knows that she has a cancel up, but that is turned off by Red Skull, so he has to have the raw blue in his hand. So this is a really clean, just like, I'm putting Yondu up front, and I'm attacking with ego into the Marvel.
Yeah. That should be game.
He'd have to have a blue in hand. He can't use that because of Red Skull. Hopefully they catch that.
I can't remember the name. No, he's seeing it right now. The wonderful thing about a final table is you usually have somebody watching the game. So they'll catch all that stuff.
Good on Kevin, because static constant abilities that don't affect the game sometimes. So noticing that, does he catch it or is it canceled? I guess they don't, but I think it's still, he has enough.
I think you can use it. You can't put it into play if Red Skull's out.
Oh, you can't play them.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's the case. I haven't played with a lot of Red Skull. I'm telling you that.
Same, actually. Very good card, but I didn't really. Yeah, it does say play, correct? And it just location's already in play, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's like you just because if you're not playing Good versus Evil, you're playing Groot at 6. It's just the end of the conversation.
Yeah. So he's got Scourge here. He could put some negs there if he needs to. So it looks like he's just gonna go in for enough, and that's
team
enough.
Attack. Yeah, he's rabbit holing at that point. All right. Good.
Robby would need a +2/+2, and he doesn't. So.
That was an interesting one because early on, you're just feeling like Kevin is getting behind, and then he just kind of turns it around there in the mid-late game. Not really what you normally see from an Outriders list.
Yeah. I feel like I just want to prefix that we're not picking on Kevin. There's a lot more micro decisions because he already has 6 guys in play. That every turn with 6, 7, 8 guys, that's where formation is the most brutally important. because there's so many different avenues you have to predict. Whereas in Robby's case, his deck is just curving out a random guy. He decides the range guy goes in the back and the melee guy goes. Really cut and dry versus, what I'd call fair versus.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And like you said, micro decisions and these ideas of, you don't really think about protecting and hiding that early unless you're playing when you're really feeling like you're the aggro. Kevin in this matchup has to feel like he's the aggro, right? So he's not, and he can still be the aggro while protecting his characters, which is kind of an odd strategy to be able to pull off because of the number of Outriders. And I guess that's an interesting point too, is that they're such a unique character. The fact that you get 6 of them, that you have to think a little bit outside the box when you do talk about, your formation and your attacks and those sort of things.
100%. Right. So Kev Mulligan's now he's going second. I don't hate this.
Really?
As the dog player, because it puts my opponent on 2 less cards, and I just want to see less cancels if I'm and I want to see more cards because Grandmaster Mortal Killmonger should help me win this matchup, and all you're conceding is her getting 1 more XP and a wound on a dog.
The draw versus play decisions, there's a lot of people
That's a big debate. Yeah,
I've really had a lot of trouble ever not playing. It just...
As the dog player, no, I get it. Putting him on the back foot is definitely where you want to be. But I think if this is an attrition matchup from the start, I just want him on 2 less cards. It could be wrong here. You'd have to jam this a lot. The problem with trying to find out first for second in a particular matchup is you have to play a lot of games to figure it out.
Yeah, specifically test going.
And the builds are 100% matter.
Yeah.
There's so many small parts of it.
We've done that before in testing where we've decided that, okay, we're going to play every matchup. You're on the draw, I'm on the play for 10 games in a row, and then flip it for 10 games in a row, and that sort of thing to kind of get some numbers. So you can get used to playing in one position or the other. That was just a little bit of things. Because some people always want to randomize who's first and who's second, who's play, who's draw in testing. But
yeah, this attack from Kevin is brutal. So there's no reason not to send in all 6 dogs, or 5, put the 1 in the back row. Yeah. We've already went over that a bunch. But he just sends in the 2, which is the only avenue that Robby could have used a +2/+2 to brick. And it forced Kevin to play a +2/+2 instead of saving it. Then this dog that's in the front row takes its second wound. I think if they both draw same quality, Kevin's going to have to play really tight. Now, he plays the Yondu, so it is what it is.
That's just a rough day. He gets the whole board stunned down. I mean, even just having that 1 dog in the back, it doesn't matter because of the Yondu, really, but I think you'd have...
Yeah. He still have the +2/+2 in his hand, though, if he attacked correctly. So we'll see if that comes up later, where like a +2/+2 would salvage a big attack or something, but it might not. It might be a non-factor. If this is another triple Yondu game, you really can't be too upset here if you're the Outrider player. It's the only way you're really losing.
Yeah, well, the double X-Files isn't exactly what Kevin wants to see either. It just puts freaking Scully so hot when he draws her. That package can be so good, but it can also be very mediocre when you're not seeing the X-Files and you're seeing the Scullys. Well, here's a Grandmaster. That's what.
Yep.
This is a pretty good curve out for Kevin. Now we've got 2 locations he's put down this time instead of having to row a bunch of stuff and then going whiplash into Grandmaster.
So he's conceding the Yondu again.
I just don't like it.
He's able to attack because it can wound a dog. It's got to be a bigger priority. It comes back to that valuing the life on your dogs.
Mm-hmm. And then this is just brutal. This is like I said, he's got the double X-Files. He plays the Scully. Mm-hmm. Being able to go back down 1 wound, any wound you can prevent or any heal you can do. Specifically, like when we're talking about some of the plays that Kevin's made that have kind of added up to a couple extra wounds or the formation's a little bit loose. Those heals become even better in that regard because you're costing yourself a turn by leaving that dog up front like that.
See, this is just an attrition game. So you see him. So because he left the Yondu there, the Grandmaster's now getting attacked. Yeah. It feels like a big misstep here. So if you're Kevin, just have less counters. Just pull a dog back. Pull 2 dogs back. Mm-hmm. You don't need all 6 here. And
getting greedy with the counters can put you in some bad positions that are going to end that people can take advantage of 100%.
Yeah.
But that's what. I'm not trying to. Yeah. Some people get really.
And now the dog's going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a lot of Midwinter, and there's a lot of people turning 6 Outriders sideways, on turn 2, all the time. So, and just playing into the last ones and that kind of thing, and that's.
It's intricate. It probably sub 5% of games come down to this game mode where you just play conservatively with your dog's health. But those ones, I mean, that's the difference between maybe winning a round, losing a round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So.
It's got the Mordu here. I like it because he sees the X-Files card, so if he can stick it, it'll protect.
Yeah, I think you need to. It's like using your whip last year is not the worst thing ever. To neg count her, bring her up front. I think he's going to do it this time. Yeah, and this just kind of lets you get a board clear. Let's see if he goes for the whole thing or if he's going to stay it. Because I think at this point, when you got 2 counters on all of them, they all got 1 wound. You can kind of treat them all the same relatively. You just kind of do your math and realize if you can leave, you can afford to leave one back or not, right?
Yep. I think here he actually needs to use them all, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, Robbie's going to spin the plot twist on this Captain Marvel attack or the attack on Scully. He's not going to spin it if you send a Singleton into Yondu later. You know, you're
right. So like you just attack where the priorities, and you go 2 over top to play around a single copy of +2/+2. Pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
The Captain Marvel's what 5, and he's got 2 6 dogs.
Well, this is a good attack by Kevin because then it gives him another. Yeah. It gives him another attack against it if he bounces it, and then he's got even another one to come in and clean the Scully up. So yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, exactly what you want to do.
Kills Scully. He's attacking the right order here. He's playing around the last one because now only the Yondu would be protected.
Yeah, there you go.
He's not going to waste it. So it's easy, perfect turn. It's really just going to be on what cards in Robby's deck did he draw if he can answer this matchup this game. Now he's got 2 wounds on 4. He's in better shape.
Yeah, I think thinking about it like this, like valuing different dogs differently as the game goes on. So as one gets 2 wounds, you need to start protecting it. If you have clean ones and one with 1 wound, you need to start protecting that 1 wounder kind of at different points. If you need them for attack, you need them for an attack because you're trying to win. You're trying to win, you know, in the amount of turns you can, you know, and pull out as much as you can. But right now, like when they're all have 1 wound, you can kind of value them the same, if you will. And there you go. Kind of a soft answer to Mordo is Iron Man.
Yep. This is the thing about going first and second on the flip side is now his opponent's on 4 before he is, and so he's dealing with bigger characters than he would normally if he was going first. But I mean, Robbie's doesn't have a ton of cards in it. Like he's kind of gassing out. If Kevin can fade some cards, like this is very winnable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's not hit the Yondu. He did hit 1 Yondu. He didn't have those Ant-Men to open up. I'm trying to bounce it.
I mean, there's just so much range in Robbie's deck that it's so brutal because like the dogs aren't getting any ferocious stuns or anything like that. The +3/+3 and the +2/+2 look a lot worse when you're just getting range attacked over and over.
And honestly, if you think about Robbie's deck in the overall scheme of the meta of good versus evil, if you thought like Rogue was going to be a thing, right? She's a good MC. Having a lot of ranged team attacks is a good way to combat her because trying to get up front and fight with her in the trenches is a losing proposition.
Yeah,
kind of like doing the same
so
thing.
So Killmonger, which is just super important, right? This takes a range, just makes him have to melee. Then he clears the Iron Man. Like this is looking really good for Kev. But it's gonna be like, does the Killmonger stick? What's Robbie play here? This is looking good though.
I think Killmonger has to be one of the most.
I don't mind the formation. I don't think I'd be pulling any of the dogs.
No, 100%. No,
sorry.
No, you're fine.
So he's got the Yondu, but he's got pluses, so this isn't really that bad. Doesn't take 6 wounds or 5 wounds to it, but it is going to range attack. The Scully did get another heal. Will get another heal? Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. That kind of thing right there can really change the game.
Yeah, and this is where like every part of that 5% we're talking about, where you're conserving your dog's health, because like if Kevin had a couple more turns, we'll see if that comes up, if it was winnable. But I mean, this Captain Marvel's now healed twice, and he's not even played a last one yet, so there's a chance like this Captain Marvel could have in theory like 10 health this game.
Yeah, and that's just a good deck design by Robbie, you know. That's just Robbie building something to understand that his character wants to grind and kind of playing towards that, right? Not trying to make.
All right, so that's the attack right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that attack right there, Scully into the dog. If he had the +2/+2 right there, that he spent unnecessarily on turn like 2, that would have clean ferocious her, and he would have kept a wound on him. So just to the point that there's always a relevance if you spend a card unnecessarily, even if it's 4 turns later.
Exactly right. Card advantage is such a fine line. You know, every card you have to spend. That's why like powering up on attacks, like attacking and then powering up to get to the attack, in order to stun somebody, it's such a risky proposition. And you got to be, and you really just want to power up on defense, if at all possible. I've seen too many times when guys power up on offense and just get blown out and lose cards.
Yeah, it's a little eggs in all basket there.
Yeah.
So he's got I mean, it's not looking good for Kev. You look at the board state. We have 5 at least more turns of Captain Marvel. He has a blue showing, so it's more like 6. And these dogs, he's got 1 health left on 3 of them and 2 health on 2. It's not looking great. Now he's got the Yondu, but this is a game where Robby had 2 Yondus. So,
yes, who draws more in some ways?
I mean, this is a lot of how the photo format was just like, did you get enough Yondus?
Yeah, how many Yondus did you draw? How many Grandmasters did you draw?
It's looking good. It's got the Grandmaster as well.
Or did you get a heavy gunman hand?
I just would love to see this Yondu move to the front row here.
I think it needs to. I think Whiplash could use some upfront action too.
She'll go down again.
Let's clean it up.
I guess if he still clears everything, I'm okay with it. But if Robby plays a flight character, he's gonna regret the Yondu not being up front. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
No, I just trade Yondu.
So he's going for the trade. Okay.
That's fine per se, but
what happened there with the dog not attacking the Scully? Because it does 4 counters, right?
It's just he just missed it. I think he just missed it. I think he's
big.
realizing it now. Yeah, little things like that. Now the group comes down. It's rough at that point.
Now the flip side of that is she has no value. She can't attack at all.
Yeah.
Unless she was healing this turn, she has no value. So.
But 7, I mean, he's going to play a last one to save the Scully. I mean, I just don't see any reason not to swing in there. I get what you're saying but sometimes like leaving any cards that I don't have to leave seems like sloppy to me sometimes. I get what you were saying with some of the points you'd make out. It's like it's not doing anything, just leave it alone, don't risk it. But at the same time,
well, she has a theory to do something. So I'm in agreement with you. She needs to die. Leaving it up, it might be a big brain play because then like he can't last one on the stuff he needs to. But if Robby was worried about that, he'd be crashing it in.
That's a good point though. You know what I mean? Trying to play around last one by leaving up a little nobody character is an interesting play but
I don't want to risk it for the heal though. That's too much.
No, too much. If it was a different kind of character, that might be something. I really wish he would have taken this Whiplash and put it up front there and kind of got it in the way a little bit. I guess it would have just died, so maybe it's okay to just leave it in the back here. But
see, I think it's really going to come down to, and this is crazy to think about, that I think he won game 2 on the back of the Shatari flight blocker, and the fact that that's his only flyer in his deck in game 1 and 3 and he doesn't have them is just a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like right now, like if that was a 1 of Ultron, a 5 or 6 drop with flight, then he would. So like, okay, Robby doesn't have the flight character here either way, but there's a chance he could kill this Killmonger out of there, and the Grandmaster.
Yeah. So him only having 2 flight characters in his entire deck. I guess Yondu kind of counts too, but only having that small amount of flight characters all the way up till turn 5, turn 7 before he hits more flight blockers. Like you said, is pretty big.
So he's moldering. I'm guessing for Mordu or Killmonger.
I think you got to do Killmonger again. Maybe Ego. Yeah, he pulled Ego. Yeah.
Okay, he pulled Ego, which is a shame because Kevin had one in his hand and he was on turn 6. But that is a card that Robby like really couldn't deal with last game. So shout outs to Robby to like adapting to the situation. He first game like just took the obvious call of like Killmonger Mordu, and then he was like, nah, never not gonna lose the Ego again. So shout out to him.
If you think about that, other than whatever Yondus he has left in his deck in the Shatari, which he has 2 more of those in his deck, he doesn't have any flight, so he can just Robby can just attack at will when it comes to the back row to kind of clean up some of those, that Killmonger and that Grandmaster. If he can, I guess, he doesn't have flight now, but if he ever levels up. That's a good call. I like the Ego call there, especially since you just dropped your Molder on 7, so you're preventing him from dropping and drawing and playing on curve, right? Because Kevin has no other 7 drops, so he's going to have to underdrop, which isn't always the end of the world, I will readily admit. But at the same time, pulling it for 7, that's another. I guess that's another point for play versus draw, right? You play the Molder on 7, and then you Molder out all their 7 drops. That could prove problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. Robby's curved out pretty nice and smooth this game. Kevin's didn't like have a bad draw either. It's just like, I mean, his opponent, having 2 heals with Scully, he drew 2 of the Wild, 2 of the Scully, and that's really nice and clean. And then that's pretty brutal. So like, what does she have? How many wins does she have now? It's hard to tell. Is it 0? Like
Captain Marvel? I think she might be down to almost none.
It's either one or it's very low. He has the XP and the wound counter moved off screen here, but
Yeah,
I mean it's super low number, and these dogs are at the pinnacle of their HP here.
yeah. I think it's like one or two wounds. But
Okay,
also,
the three. I mean, it's five. He needs five, and there's two magic box in play.
yeah,
Yikes.
that's a rough, yeah, that's a rough day. Um, it's a lot of locations that face up for Kevin. Also, I'd like to see him use that whiplash a little bit more. I know he didn't have a ton in the back row here. Killmonger doesn't have any superpowers, so he can't use that. But just interesting. Could bring that Molder up front and put a counter on it. I mean, you don't got a lot else going on in those locations. You're not really going to use them for anything else, short of like a Shatari when it comes into play, or a Scourge. I guess a Scourge would be pretty good, but I don't know if that's going to bring you back. But
So now this is where I would take a long while to consider my formation, because I want to know what I need to get all three of those characters dead, but I don't want to overextend my dogs.
100%, and you got all your dogs have two wounds at this point, so there is a scenario where you lose the game on the next turn. So take your time in your formation. Plus, it's a very busy board. Let's talk about 6 supporting characters and 4 main characters in play. That's 10 total characters in play. You have a flight character, so there's a lot of different ways you could form this up. Knowing Robbie's going to have flight next turn because Killmonger copied level 2, so that his level 3 now has flight but not ranged, and the bounce power. So it's a very different kind of, a lot of different things to take in, a lot of different details. And I think he's just going to go ahead to attacks and leave 4 dogs with 2 wounds up front. Counters a no.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right. He's trying to team attack with Yondu here, which is a hero.
Mm-hmm. Points it out to him.
I think they catch that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, see, with that line of play right there, I think I would have front rowed the Red Skull with the Whiplash and done that. Because that would have put 2 blockers up front.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had enough gas to do everything without the dogs. So, and the Mulder here doesn't even die.
Well, what I was thinking is you could bring the Mulder up front, put a counter on him. He goes to, what, he's a 7/9. He goes to 8. And there was some kind of attack I had built up in my head that could do that. But I think I think yet again it was a situation where he got greedy with counters. And he just wanted more and more counters. And he just really put him at risk. Because an Anya right here just ends the game.
And they also, you got to look at the threshold of these counters. They don't matter because his opponent has like a 7 ranger. He has a 7 defense dog. He just played another 7 attacker. So now he's got 2 clean attacks. 2 are dead. The 2 bigger ones are dead.
Yeah, and then Captain Marvel goes into the other one. If he tries to play something, he can end the attack. Craziness. Yeah, he's just going to clean it up. And that's pretty much game at this point. Like, once he gets him down to 2 dogs with 3 counters on him, I could see keeping the lower countered guys up front to get some more counters on him, right? But I think having 2 in the back row would have been a good play here. He would have only had the 1 flying character in Bruce Banner this turn. Killmonger would have still been showing up the flight. Red Skull's a problem at 6/9, and
like, yeah, if you look at his board, Robbie only had 1 flight character, 2 flight characters that turn. But so he would have got to 2, but he was able to get to 3 because the Mulder actually had a good attack target. Whereas if the Red Skull was in the front row, he didn't have a good attack target.
Yeah, and this just basically puts you at game end here.
But it's not like unwinnable. I mean, he only needs 3 wounds on the Marvel. He has a more than Killmonger. So if he had more health on these dogs, this is a winnable game.
Yeah, and if he just had more dogs in play last turn, more dogs in play the turn before that, there's some different things he could do to change this up. Yet again, it comes down to like formation where he's just kind of back rowing everything. Dogs are up front. There's very few characters that he puts up front. It's always the same ones. And then the way he attacks from like right to left is interesting to me. Coming down with the Thanos, see, like if you have some more dogs here, Robbie's got a very thin board, and this Thanos is pretty big right here because you have the Mordo, you have the Killmonger, you can bash into Captain Marvel, and the +2/+2 is what he has to have it to trade,
See, like here he's just leaving the 1 dog up front, essentially just like saying I'm giving up.
Yeah,
or maybe I'm still a little confused here.
Yeah.
But he cleans up the board, but it doesn't matter at this point.
But I think
I'm
you could have
not sure
got another turn.
Okay, he's conceding.
Yeah, you could have got another.
Yeah,
turn
I definitely could have went a whole nother avenue that game. It almost seems like it was winnable, but it's hard to tell. Like when we said he used the +2/+2 early, that attack right there on that last turn where Marvel went into a dog, he could have bricked it. Or forced a ferocious, which means he would have had to use the blue, meaning the dog wouldn't have died. I would have had another dog up. There's a bunch of things we pointed out here where dogs wouldn't have taken wounds or he could have played conservatively. But I mean, it is what it is. Kevin did a good job. He got second place. He did a good day. I think that matchup is with two Dana Scully heels. It definitely was very difficult.
100%, and then all the yondus that are being played. I think that game one, Robby drew all the pieces that he needs, that he wants to see in order to win the matchup, and it's really hard to kind of push through that kind of hate, you know. And then, like you said, in game three, the double heel, that's just really hard. You really have to be playing, thinking about the grind game and thinking about the long game from the early and mid game, from Kevin's perspective, in order to win that match when he's going to draw and heel twice and molder out your egos and answers and things like that. You really got to be ready to grind it out long ways. And I would like to see what would happen if you had a couple more wounds on there. Drops that Thanos down. What does Robby answer that with? Because Robby doesn't really have any lethal of any sort. So that Thanos is going to stick around and really cause some card problems for Robby. He didn't have a lot of cards in hand at that time. And then like him having to burn a character.
He was definitely interesting him out.
Yeah. So would have been interesting. But
it was definitely a good game. That game was pretty tight. Like you could see just where Kevin was just kind of giving away for runes. It could have been a lot different, man. It was Robby definitely had the good play. I would say that Mulder play might have saved him the game. So good play by Robby to make that adjustment, realizing the ego is just a problem for his deck.
I think that was the perfect time to do it. Like we were talking about, you're on the play, and you're on 7. You got the Mulder, you got the yellow, no Mordo in play. Pull his 7. And it really didn't give Kevin a hugely meaningful play. And what he had to do, he had to do like a double recruit, right? And I'm not even saying that Kevin had an ego or was going to draw an ego, but if he did, how does that game turn out? He's definitely got something he can hide his Outriders behind at that point. And I think like if you're just thinking about the overall amount of flying in the deck in general, and that was like I think that's for the 10 characters in his 40% of the flight is out of his deck when you make that call at that point,
right,
or whatever it is. So.
100%.
All right.
It could have went. I mean, that's just a part of the thing we talk about all the time, where like even a micro decision usually doesn't come up, but in that game, I think it might have decided the finals there.
Yeah, and I think when you get up to that point in play, a lot of times those are the kind of things that decide those games. You go through the games, you watch them, and it was the little plays because everybody's been playing all day. They're very used to their deck. They've had a good day, maybe running hot or what have you throughout Swiss and throughout the top 8, and you get to this point, and sometimes people kind of gas out when it comes to making their play decisions, but a lot of times, they're just, they're locked in, and it is about making just those little plays to kind of push you over the edge.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, man. All right, guys, that was all of Oklahoma. I think we might try to do Las Vegas, if you guys are interested in that. But anyway, appreciate everybody for watching.